Oh, Outriders, you really break my heart. Well, this is not a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 game. It actually is a lot of fun and has a lot of potential. But Outriders has a big issue. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, it's me, Axial GT. So Outriders has some great gameplay, and I've actually really enjoyed playing most of the demo. I was just waiting for the April 1st launch to really dive in. And I was all set, but then this happened. Servers are down. So getting the footage for this video was actually a no-go. So if you recognize any of it, it's actually from Echelon Gamer's livestream. So a big thanks goes to UE.
You're welcome, Axial.
Just kidding. But before we get into the botched launch of Outriders and the myriad of bugs that it has, we'll also talk about the elephant in the room. But don't forget to give me the finger or like and subscribe for future Axial GT content. I do a mix of gaming and hardware news and reviews, plus a little commentary thrown in. With that out of the way, let's get started. Like I said earlier, Outriders is a fun experience well worth its $60 price tag. But that impression takes a nosedive if you can't log into the servers to play, and is a huge pitfall of always online games. Just for a very simplified overview on how gaming servers work, let's get into some basics. Okay, let's say you load up a game, Outriders in this example. You log in, sometimes with a separate logging server, but we're not going to get that complicated. Then you get to the game servers. Typically in FPS games, let's say like Battlefield, the server or host is actually playing the middleman between the client, that's being you the player, and the host. Multiple times a second, the server is using information sent by each gamer or instance of the game to calculate player position, what they are doing, like opening a door or firing their gun, and what direction they are firing. The server then calculates all of this in record time depending on your ping to the server. Then the server transmits all that information back to all the game clients, so all the players see the same thing. It all works seamlessly behind the scenes. Unless there is a problem with the ping, then the calculations get all effed up, and the player sees lag. Servers can compensate to a certain extent, but it is limited. Okay, so that's the overview. Simplified, but it works. Now back to Outriders. This is not like a full-fledged multiplayer game, let's say like Battlefield or Call of Duty. This is a co-op game with a limited map size for each location of play. Now we have the aspect of always online gameplay, even for single player. This becomes a huge issue, especially if you're having server issues after server issue after server issue. You can't even play solo due to its always online connection, but I will get to that in a minute. At first, Outriders was blamed as having a capacity issue. The game is popular, so supposedly Square Enix was caught off guard with how much server capacity they needed. Number one, that is BS, and don't believe it. This is not the 1960s, meaning Square Enix, and People Can Fly, are not using the old IBM 7094 mainframe, or the 1970s ARPANET, or the days of the 1990s when you have dial-up modems. To handle all the data and packets sent from the client to the host and back again. They're using a mix of their own servers and AWS, Amazon Web Services. I mean, this is 2021. To add capacity, it's almost as easy as flipping a switch. Now, are the AWS servers to blame? I would think not. As much as I would like to blame Amazon for something, like my free 2-day Prime shipping taking a week or more, that's another topic altogether, I don't think that's the issue. In my opinion, given that the servers have been shut down on multiple occasions, applying fixes, hot fixes, temporary band-aids if you ask me, it seems obvious that they're dealing with a server coding issue. Computer and server hardware only works as well as the code placed upon it. And Square Enix is already familiar with server issues. Marvel's Avengers servers keep going down, and that game was released months ago. Square Enix knew that the hype train was rolling just by the impressions of the demo, and when it released a while ago. It boasted 2 million downloads, so by that they could calculate a ballpark idea of the server requirements they would need. And for some reason the Outriders Twitter account is being praised for their transparency of the whole server issue. I mean, really? This is a big nothing burger. Every tweet says the same thing, just with the words rearranged. That is not transparency. This is feeding your player base a load of crap. You want transparency? Just tell us what the real problem is, not a generic statement. Let's touch on that elephant in the room. I believe online-only games suck, and that's no surprise to anybody that knows me. If a game offers solo gameplay, you ought to be able to play it offline. And one of the biggest arguments I heard for not doing this is to stop piracy. And that's just them feeding us a whole bunch of, well, you know. You will not stop piracy. If there is a will, there is a way to crack a game. Which does bring up another small topic when it comes to Outriders. Kernel-level anti-cheat systems. And I'll put that video at the top of the screen, and I'll link it in the description below. Just for a short 50-foot view, the system kernel is the highest access to a system, and installing software here, while not always, can cause issues and leave systems open to hacking. Now in my earlier video, the culprit was the game Valorant, Riot Games' 5-on-5 tactical FPS. They installed kernel-level anti-cheats and were raked over the coals, even by me. Especially since they didn't ask my permission to have that kind of access to my system, or even warn me about it. And being 100% owned by Tencent, that has a long history of ties to the CCP, and this man, this man, was cause for concern. Now that was just a short summary. Did the kernel-level anti-cheat stop cheaters? Well, I think not. And no, I don't wear a tinfoil hat. But I am also aware of my surroundings. And yes, Square Enix is not owned by Tencent. But they are as of 2018, in a strategic partnership with Tencent. So take that for what you will. Now there are a few other issues that have popped up since launch, like frequent disconnects when trying to crossplay between console and PC. It has been reported there's a desynchronization between PC and console code that results in a mismatch that would kick players from the multiplayer game. And Square Enix is supposedly working on this. Now this only affected PS4, PS5, and PC players, but it still worked good for Xbox and PlayStation. So for as the making of this video, matchmaking between console and PCs has been turned off. There has also been reports of game crashes, especially when it comes to the side quest A Bad Day and the Mountain Outpost expedition, another one they're supposed to be working on. Plus the issue with stuck at sign in, which your only option is to close the game, reboot it, and try again. And players should also watch out for inventory wipes. They have not figured out exactly why it happens, but during gameplay you could lose your items that you worked so hard for to collect. And yes, that is another issue that they're still working on. Now I understand games have bugs. That's just the way things are nowadays. And this launch, while if you take out the server issues, isn't as bad as most. Which I'll actually jump back to this elephant in the room. Why would you tie a single player part of a game to always online? Two of the issues that I've brought up in this video could be cured if it had an offline mode for the single player. One, you would not have to install the kernel level anti-cheat. And two, when servers go down, people can still play your game. People might be frustrated that they can't get it online for the multiplayer or the co-op part, but they're downright pissed when they can't play their game at all. So when this is all boiled down and you wash away all the BS, this launch really messed up a fun game. Tying solo gameplay to always online is an idiotic move. Players might be a little bit more forgiving if they could play something. And it also isn't a wise move to watch the Outriders Twitter feed, release some tired crap and say that they are transparent. Now just as a funny tidbit, I was watching the Twitter feed and it gave a link so you can check on the status of the servers. And the funny thing is, the page doesn't even work. Well, at least not all of it. It tells you the servers are operational, but if you go to click on the links where they're investigating, this is what you get. Which, I just thought that was funny. The website doesn't even work. Now, will these issues be fixed? Yes, I think eventually they will be. But I also think that unless they do something drastic, like untie the single player portion of the game to the always online requirement, we're still going to be at the mercy of Square Enix servers down the road. But that's my opinion. Tell me what you guys think by writing in the comments below. I read all of them. And don't forget to like and subscribe for future Axial GT content. I really do appreciate you watching. Until next time, my friends, I am out of here. You all have a good one.